And after a few years of having these fights, maybe you find what I found, which is you just start giving up. This is the worst part. This is most marriages I've ever seen. This is most men inside of most relationships. This is why cheating starts to make sense. This is why pornography and masturbation, dealing with shit on your own, you're like, listen, I can't figure this marriage shit out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, fuck it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to handle mine. I'm going to go handle myself sexually. I'm going to give my own time. I'm going to bleed myself into Netflix. I'm going to disappear from the game. I can't figure this fucking woman out. I can't figure out this idea of being a man and being a father. No matter what I do, I keep fucking it up. I don't know how to change it. Maybe if I go to church, okay, I go to church and all of a sudden I start to find out that I'm still the same me before I had that new possibility. The going to church doesn't change a man. Getting a new woman doesn't change a man. A man changes when he realizes that the patterns he's in do not work. And inside of those patterns, he sees the possibility of change. This is not a conversation of change the way you're thinking, though. This isn't change in the sense of I'm going to go from here to here and I'm going to be the same person. I'm talking about being a triangle and becoming a square. Being a square and becoming a circle. This is fundamental change. This means that the actual form of the man becomes different. Different than who he was before. So we're going to slow this down and I'm going to introduce a model. I'm going to come over here real quick and we're going to have one of my team push this. I'm going to introduce a model that I hope will bring a little bit of clarity to this. And we're going to talk around this because I was so frustrated with how my marriage was working. Like it just was. And there were these personal habits I had, like addictions and the way I drank and things like this. Like, why do I do what do I do? Because I ultimately don't want these things. But yet I keep having the same conversation. So we're going to come back and we're going to be referencing this model right here. This is what I call the drift and shift. And inside the Warrior book, the Brotherhood, inside of Wake Up Warrior, the book, the Black book, I go into a deep dive conversation. We obviously do not have time. I spend multiple days training on this concept inside the Brotherhood. Today on Wake Up Warrior TV, episode 5, I'm just going to give you the first part, which is what I call the drift and the karmic cul-de-sac. And maybe this will help you recognize why in your life you continue to repeat the same shit, but there's this illusion that you're actually growing. So we're going to come back here and we're going to reference this back and forth. We're also going to spend some time over here on this page, on here on this screen, and we're going to walk through each one of the key points that I need you to understand from the drift and shift. So let me introduce this with another story. So I was sitting at a wedding. I was hanging out with a bunch of guys who I knew almost 8 years ago in the banking world. We were talking about life and what things had become, what my marriage had become, what their marriages had become. Half of them were divorced. There were 3 or 4 that were divorced. And I was sharing some of my pain and what I'd gone through. And one of the things that was interesting to me as I sat and talked to these men is they said the following, and they said, Garrett, how do you grow so quickly? Like they were blown away at the trajectory of growth inside of my businesses, my marriage, my life. From the homes I live in, to the businesses I run, to the way me and my wife turned around literally on divorce's door, filing paperwork, to becoming best friends. I never once in 13 fucking years had I ever said my wife was my best friend, because she wasn't. If in anything, I'll probably be more connected to the idea my wife was my enemy. But that again didn't have anything to do with her. It had to do with my own stories and my own inability to connect with me. Now, I projected a ton of bullshit on her, don't get me wrong. She suffered unruly torture being married to me because of my inability to see myself, like many women do, and like the women who are married to you who don't get it because you don't get it. They want to follow you, but they can't follow you because you can't fucking stand up and lead. And you can't stand up and lead because you're stuck in a blender of constantly repeating the same shit over and over and over again. So I'm there and I'm talking to my friends at this wedding. I'm like, how did you grow? And I said, I found this. I found that if I don't learn from life, I can't grow. That's it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, if I can't learn from life, then I can't grow. The only possible way for me to become a bigger man tomorrow than I am today is for me to learn along the way. If I'm over here and I'm down in this position, and this is how tall I am, and this is how big I am, in order for me to grow into the next step, if I step and I am the same size. Nothing changes. My point of view doesn't change. My perspective doesn't change. If I want a higher elevated perspective that moves me all the way from the floor clear back up here, if that's the case, then I've got to change something, and I'm going to have you consider that the change is you've got to learn. You've got to learn, but we've not been taught how to learn. We look at life through this, I fucked up or I didn't, and almost no human being I've ever met was raised and trained, taught and educated to learn from life. Maybe the purpose of your life and mine is not to be perfect, it's not to be righteous, it's not to hit it and get it right every single day, that the purpose of our lives is to grow. What if that was the case? What if the purpose of your life and mine was to simply grow? That God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, that God was not sitting around waiting for you to get it perfect. What if perfection is the virus of your own expansion? What if the thought that I have to get it right every single time is what has you sit in the middle of the night terrified of actually trying anything new? What if this idea of being perfect is also what keeps you blind from actually being able to learn and to live? I'm not perfect. Never claimed to be, except back when I was trying to be. And I never felt more disconnected, more despair, more depression, and more dysfunction in my life than when I was trying to be perfect and be, quote, righteous.